Look at this good-looking panel to open up Sports Select Sports Talk today. I mean, this is the group of guys that's going to be bringing Goldeyes broadcast to Shaw. We got, yeah, you guys looking around all over the place trying to find these good-looking guys.
What?
I'm referring to the guys right to my left here. Shawn Coates will be the color commentator when the broadcasts get underway May 29th, and to my immediate left is Scott Taylor, who will be providing the play-by-play. Guys, I mean, Goldeyes season is among us, and you know what? It's underway. Our broadcast getting going May 29th. Rick Forney has had a busy offseason.
He's had a very busy offseason, but the most important thing about May 29th, it's going to be a sellout. There will not be a seat available in the building. They'll be out in the berm. I was down in the ticket office late last week, and there was only singles left. So it's going to be a great night for baseball. And when you talk about Rick Forney going out and getting ball players, it was amazing to me that he waited as long as he did. He went after pitchers after they'd been released at spring training by Major League Ball clubs. So he picked up Nick Carr late, he picked up Dexter Carter late, he picked up Brian Leach late. He got some players that do have big league spring training experience. They have AA and AAA experience, and they're still young guys throwing a lot of heat. So the big thing he did was get these pitchers. Then he got Sherendel DeCaster after he'd lost Scott Thorman to Mexico. That was a huge acquisition. Now, DeCaster has to get going. Started out pretty slowly through the Texas run. But his history says he'll get it together, and we all know about baseball. If you're a 300 hitter, you're a 300 hitter, and Sherendel DeCaster is a 300 hitter. But John Weber is off to a great start. Amos Ramon's off to a great start. Price Kendall. All the guys that they're going to depend on this season are off to pretty good starts. So I think after a tough road trip through Texas, the Goldeyes will be in good shape.
And, you know, you talked about the new guys and the late acquisitions that Rick Forney made. He also had some consistency in the guys that he brought back. Starts with starting pitching. Ace Walker, Chris Salamita, both 10-plus wins last year. Salamita becoming one of only two to win more than 10 games 2 years in a row. You know what you get with those guys. You're going to get 7 innings of quality ball for most of their starts. You'll get the quality starts. You've added Matt Rush to the starting line. You've got Amos Ramon back, John Weber, who you mentioned, just a man who commands respect wherever he plays. He owns that locker room. It really looks like it's going to be another exciting year for the Goldeyes. And really, if you get a chance to come down and watch this team play, come out and see them. They're going to play some exciting baseball.
It just may not be the home opener with only no seats being left, right, Scott? As you mentioned, a lot of different faces in the bullpen. We talked about the differences in terms of starting pitching. What do guys Nick Carr, Brian Leach, and Dexter Carter bring to the club?
Well, Dexter Carter brings lights out speed. He brings a guy who can come in the 7th or 8th inning and shut it down. And that's what they've lacked consistently over the last decade. Now they've got a guy who can do that. My fear with Dexter Carter, he's 6'6", 190 pounds, can throw 95. When you've got a guy like that, how long do you keep him if the scouts notice? I'm sure the scouts noticed in Texas. I'm sure they're going to notice here. It's going to be difficult to keep Dexter Carter for any length of time. Same thing goes for Nick Carr. He's been penciled in as the closer. He's 25 years old. He's had it at 96, 97, 98 miles an hour before he had his Tommy John surgery. Now he's got it back up to 92, 93, 94. He has big league speed. He's also got a chip on his shoulder. He doesn't like what the New York Mets did to him at the end of spring training this year. And when you've got guys like that, you know you're going to get a closer who is ready to put people down. And that's the one thing that they had last year. They had Jamie Vermillier, who was pretty good at it last year. But now they got a guy who really wants to be a closer, and that makes a big difference.
It certainly does. Now, with all the new faces on the mound, guys, it's got to be nice for the Goldeyes to be able to count on a familiar face behind the plate in Louis Allen.
Well, certainly Louis Allen, a veteran. He's been here a number of times, and the last couple of years in particular. He really settles the pitchers down. He knows the pitching staff well. He knows how to handle a pitcher, and with guys like Walker and Salamita, as we mentioned before, they've got a good working relationship. It's what he's going to do with those new guys. And really, I think, Louis does it not just in terms of the way he speaks to the guys and the way he controls them in the bullpen and during the game, but he also does it as a leader in the clubhouse. You see him talking to the guys, always working with them, always making suggestions. It's really a tribute to his veteran status and his ability to lead pitchers, and I'm very confident in his ability to do that, as I'm sure Rick is, and that's why he brought him back to do just that.
And I guess moving kind of around the field now, we'll go to third base where Amos Ramon will be. We had him on Sports Talk a little bit earlier, but just before training camp. Looks to be in great shape and doing well. well after rehabbing that knee injury.
He took an entire year off. He played in the first 6 innings of the first game. Not even that, first 3 innings of the first game last year. He has taken an entire season off. He's ready to play. The thing about Amos Ramon is he's as good in the field as he is at the plate. He's a tremendous hitter and has power for a little guy. He's not very big, but 5'8", but he has tremendous power, tremendous strength, and his arm at third base is as good an arm at third base as anybody in the league. The key for him is to hit for average. He's got to hit 310, 315, 320 to be the effective player he wants to be. Defensively, he'll be rock solid. That'll make a big difference. And with Price Kendall moving to from second to short, it's good to have a veteran third baseman over there.
And that leads right into my next question about Price Kendall making the move to shortstop from second base. Shortstop being his natural position, and also you talked about how good of a hitter Amos Ramon is. You know, Price Kendall hit 324 last year.
Yes, he did, and he was Rookie of the Year in the American Association, and it'll be interesting to see what he does. As you mentioned, it is his natural position. He's more adept at playing shortstop. He's got great range, and that may lead to some more errors because he's going to actually touch balls that most people won't get to. Some balls will leave the infield and be hits for against other shortstops. But Price is a very confident player, and what he's really trying to do this year is take that last shot at making organized baseball. And if he can have another great year, which he's out to prove, he's hungry, he'll go that route. If not, he's prepared to live a life after baseball. So I would expect that Price, knowing how determined he is and how successful he's been in the past, he'll have as good a year as last year, if not better.
He believes that he has a personality to play shortstop as opposed to second base. He's got a big arm, big booming arm, and he had trouble sometimes trying to keep it down from second base. He threw a couple into the first 3 or 4 rows last year. With more distance to have to throw the baseball, he's got that huge arm, and his personality is one where he likes to strut around the infield. He'll admit that, and he wants to be the guy in the middle. That's what Wes Long did. He wants that job. The other thing is when Rick Forney scouted Price Kendall, he scouted him as a shortstop. That's what Kendall's natural position was, and that's where he wants to play.
Now, we talked about some of the new faces that are going to be on the team, no exception in the infield, both new guys at second base and at first base. We talked about DeCastro. Let's talk a bit about Matt Cusick.
Well, Cusick has the ability to hit the ball as well as field. We saw that in the preseason. We're seeing it in the early part of the season in the Texas trip. Certainly, that's one of those variables that Rick Forney wants to see pan out. He comes billed quite highly. He's got the ability to field. He is a second baseman. He can hit for average. Let's see what he can do on a regular and consistent basis. That'll be one of the question marks for the Goldeyes this year is how Cusick performs at the plate.
He had a huge Grand Slam home run in that trip through Amarillo. He won a ball game for them. The thing is, early in the season, I think there's a lot of grumbling in the stands here because Cusick made a couple of errors early. I think that was a combination of nervousness and new surroundings. Rick Forney scouted him extremely well. He knows him well. He had him penciled in as the starting second baseman before the season started. So Forney has the confidence in the kid. He's going to give him an opportunity to keep that position.
Just a matter of getting some reps and getting comfortable in the Winnipeg surroundings for sure. Let's move to the outfield, and I only have to say one name when it comes to the outfield, John Weber.
John Weber is one of the class acts of this league. He's one of the class acts of any league. John Weber is a great teammate. That's the one thing Rick Forney always says when he talks about Weber. A veteran player, been right to the edge with the New York Yankees, didn't stick, but was the player of the year 3 years ago at Yankee spring training. Marvelous talent. He went through Texas hitting around 400. If you need a guy in the middle of the lineup to knock in runs, John Weber's the guy. He's also the leader in the clubhouse.
Yes, he is, and I'm going to follow up on that point. Really one of those intangibles is that he is a leader in the clubhouse. He gets the guys going, and if there's any problems on that field and someone has to step up and represent the Goldeyes, usually John Weber's the first one in the middle of that battle, and it's he's a leader on the field, in the clubhouse, one of those guys they call the glue. He makes everything stick together, so it's really good for Rick Forney that he's got John Weber back this year.
Chris Roberson is the guy in center field, already having he had showed his skill, I guess we could say, down in Amarillo, battling that wind out in center field. So obviously a lot of potential out there. Again, one of the new faces. And over in right field, Josh Mazzola is the other new guy out there.
Josh Mazzola's got to start hitting. They expect him to be a power hitter, and they want him to get that job done. So Mazzola had a big hit in Amarillo, did a good job. But Chris Roberson is a great story. He's a trivia question. Who was the center fielder in Philadelphia before Shane Victorino? It was Chris Roberson. A talented guy, very, very fast, good base runner, can hit for power, does hit for average. So that's the thing about Chris Roberson, and that's the key he brings to this team is his defense and his ability to get on base.
And then you've got a guy like Rich Carpenter who comes off the bench. He has a lot of speed. He has the ability to hit for average, hit more than 300 last year. And one of the things that he does very well is he executes the bunt quite well. So it's always nice to have a guy like that you can bring into certain situations if you need to advance runners or go in defensively. So really, outfield looks solid for the Goldeyes this year.
All right, and moving into my favorite part of the show is called Quick Hitters, and of course we're talking baseball, so it sounds like a perfectly crafted pun, but it's actually what we call it week in, week out. First question for both you guys: what Goldeyes storyline will you follow the closest this season?
Oh, good question.
Well, that's a great question. I think the young pitchers. I mean, that's going to be the key to the ball club. If you don't have pitching, you don't win. It's going to be up to the young guys to get the job done. The starters have started slowly, but the young guys have pitched pretty well. I'm going to watch Nick Carr, Brian Leach, and Dexter Carter probably the closest. And this young Keohi Downing, the surfer from Hawaii, he'll be fun to watch too.
And I'm going to watch Amos Ramon. Obviously, very interested in what he showed us for the brief period last year. A very intense guy. He can do everything that you mentioned earlier. Be interesting to see how Amos responds coming back from that injury, having a starting role at third base, to see what he can do for the club.
What new face are you most excited about?
Toss-up. That's almost impossible to answer. Chris Roberson for sure, Dexter Carter and Nick Carr. When you've got your two back-end relievers, the guys who are going to save the game for you, that's going to be big stuff. That's going to be stuff you focus on. But Chris Roberson is going to be the leadoff man in this team. He's going to be the guy who has to set the table. He's going to be huge for this ball club. And boy, those three guys are going to be big this year.
And for me, it's Matt Rush. You know, someone who now lives in Winnipeg year-round. You know what you're going to get with Walker and Salamita in the starting role. Can Rush be that third guy to get you 8 wins, 10 wins, something in that area? Can he bring some consistency, which will allow the Goldeyes to go after those extra wins they need? Will they match 60 wins compared to last year? Don't know. But if they can get somewhere in the mid-50s, a guy like Rush might be the guy that provides you some.
Yeah, and another guy's Fabian Williamson too, who pitched well the other night in Laredo. Fabian Williamson's going to have a lot to do with how that rotation sets up.
Now, you've both had conversations with the players. You're familiar with the players. Who's got the best stories?
Oh, John Weber, by a mile, not even close. Nobody's even in the ballpark with John Weber because he's been around the most. Chris Roberson has good major league stories, and one of the classics, of course, is that if he ever wanted to visit another ballpark again, it'd be Franklin Field in Philadelphia. Said it's the greatest place he's ever been in his whole life. And then there's Keohi Downing, who's got some good stories because his family is surfing in Hawaii. The Downing boards are legendary in Hawaii. His grandfather's in the Surfing Hall of Fame. He's got some great stories too, but they aren't baseball stories.
I bet. Favorite baseball memory for either of you?
Oh, goodness.
Earth-shattering edition of Quick Hitters.
Start with that one. A couple of years ago, I had the privilege of seeing Mark Burley throw his perfect game live in Chicago, and actually talked to Scott right after the game about it. I was so excited. It was really a special treat to see a guy like that deal with such control. And I've been fortunate to see some great baseball games, but that stands out in my mind.
Section 201, row 1. Second deck, Tiger Stadium. My dad and I used to sit there all the time when we went to games. That's where I grew up on baseball, is at old Tiger Stadium. I grew up 45 minutes from the front door, and we went to a lot of baseball and saw Al Kaline and Norm Cash and Rocky Colavito. And I'm probably the only guy in this group that saw Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams in that building. So
wow.
There you go.
Excellent. That's quite a story from both you guys.
It just proves I'm old.
It's quite a story from both of you guys for sure. Now, the last question on Quick Hitters. The Goldeyes play 100 games. We broadcast 20. Jim Toth got shaving cream in the face last year. How many games? The over-under is set at 10 before I get shaving cream in the face. I'm
taking the under for 100.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the under.
Weber's on this team. It's not going to take you long,
you
kid.
Won't last 10
You
days.
are a rookie. You won't last. I'm thinking game 1.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah.
It would be a nice way to close out the broadcast.
Because you've got one other problem.
What's that?
You have Toth product.
I do, and you know what? I'm not even going to get into a competition on the air with Jim Toth about hair. That is just absolutely not
happening. But they're going to love it.
Now, if you want to follow the Winnipeg Goldeyes throughout the year, Goldeyes.com is the website. If you want to give them a follow on Twitter as well, at WPG_Goldeyes. If you missed that, right underneath me right now, that's the two places you can follow. Also, watch Shaw. 20 broadcasts getting underway May 29th. Thanks for joining us on Sports Select Sports Talk.